Welcome to MedTech Disruptors. My name is David Philby. I'm the founder of Alevra Consulting. On this show, we interview commercial leaders who have taken a disruptive technology from early phase through to launch or even merger and acquisition. It's all about the journey, the highs and the lows, how to create new markets, what is high performance culture, the risks and rewards, and leading commercial teams in growth companies. We hope this gives you good insight and advice on how to advance your own career. Welcome, and I hope you enjoy the show. This week I was joined by Alyssa Huffman, inventor and founder of Illuminate. We covered her successful career as a distributor before overcoming incredible knockbacks to bring a new idea to life in spine and orthopaedics, and now navigating the world of capital raising. Let's get into it. Thank you, Alyssa, for joining the MedTech Disruptors podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. It's beautiful and sunny today.
And where are you in the world?
I am in Missouri today.
Missouri, on the back of a very glamorous, but I'm sure tiring road show. Would they call it a road show? Is that what you're performing at the moment?
I think that's the only way to call it. I don't know other than a circus, but it's a one-man circus. So yeah, New York 3 times, DC, San Diego and London in 4 weeks. It's been, and St. Louis a few times. So
they're all really nice places to visit though, aren't they? New York, London, San Diego. I'll take that.
Yeah, especially when you have good people that you're meeting with. It doesn't make it work.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I love that. Obviously, we were very fortunate to spend an extended amount of time when you were here in London and get to know each other. But for the benefit of the audience, if you'd like to give us an introduction to who you are and your background, that'd be great.
My name is Alyssa Huffman. I'm the CEO, inventor, and founder of Illuminate Orthopedic and Spine Therapeutic Hardware. I started my career very early on coloring in the hospitals. I've worked in the clinic, in the hospital, worked my way into sales and distribution. At one point, I had 11 companies that I represented. So basically any implant in the orthopedic and spine department, I've probably carried and been in the OR thousands of times, worked my way into an executive position, and then ultimately had a series of life failures where I just decided to bet on myself. And I had been sitting on an idea for a decade and just researching consistently, and realized it was the time and the place.
This is going to be fascinating, right? Because so you have a rich, successful commercial background, specifically and heavily within distribution. Can you give me some more insight into that? Because after that, we're going to flip this into how you became an inventor, which is just absolutely fascinating. So what was that commercial background in your career? What were you doing?
So I was a consultant for many years, and I also carried a bag. A bag, for those that don't know what a bag is, means you carry multiple different companies. So I was trying to compete with the guys because I was the only woman in the area at the time in my field. And so in order to compete, because I wasn't able to travel with the guys and the surgeons, their wives would not be appreciative of that, I had to be strategic. And so I look at life and things that I want to do and challenges that I have, or my own weaknesses. I look at it almost like playing chess or playing poker. We can't control the situation. We can only control ourselves, right? We can't control other people. And I looked at that situation as, what can I do to compete and compete better than anybody else? And so I learned emerging technology. I specifically focused significantly on biologics and computer navigation, and this was back in 2007, that time frame. So biologics were just emerging at the time, and nobody really understood. There like today, there were so many out there that you really didn't understand what to do with what and where. And then I also became a comprehensive distributor because I wanted to be a one-stop shop. And at that time, there wasn't really very many of those, if any, particularly in my area.
Hmm.
So I had started with total joints with Smith and Nephew, picked up trauma, then picked up extremity and spine, as well as biologic lines, and really tried to be oh, something that was undefeatable. And what I did to gain market share is I would look at the OR schedule and I would bring, particularly around holidays, I knew somebody was going to screw up. So I'd bring the best products in as the backup plan. And eventually the backup plan becomes the first plan.
Wow. Why around holidays does someone always screw up?
The office is challenged. The reps are challenged. The people go out of town. There's even if you have a backup plan, you need to have a backup plan for a backup plan for a backup plan. And that's
Hmm.
one thing that distribution sales taught me was and very familiar in this role is you can ask my team. We always have a backup plan for a backup plan for a
Hmm.
backup plan. And it's proved well. Typically, if you have all of those backup plans, sometimes the first one actually goes well. But if you don't have them, it seems like it never goes well.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because you've thought through various scenarios to with the backup plan, so you have a broader scope and more perspectives.
Yeah, makes sense. Now you touched on this. This is not the purpose of today's podcast, but it's a really interesting topic and a reality which I think frames your background and what you've had to overcome to be successful. You mentioned you were the only woman in a competitive market landscape, right? Um, what did you come up against and have to overcome to be successful in those positions and generating, a client base and ultimately revenue, as that only woman when you first entered the market?
So I was in a situation back then, it was very rare for one rep to have an exclusivity agreement, right? But
Mm.
now it's very commonplace. So I came into a very challenging environment where the competitive rep had been the only competitive or only rep there for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So he was beloved,
Yeah.
and I was not.
Yeah.
So so it's almost like the military. You keep your head down and you strategize, right? And you become part of the team. You become an indispensable part of the team that's willing to say, I don't know when you don't know something. I'll get back to you, and you be fast and you have legitimate turnaround with legitimate credibility, credible sources that are giving the information. You learn. I learned from the best of the best. That's something that I learned early on was not or to make sure that I was connecting myself with the best of the best. So I had the highest level of information available to me because so often it's like playing a sport, right? If you learn the wrong technique, you're in trouble, and you're in trouble for the rest of the tenure of what you're doing. And
Right.
so I wanted to learn from researchers, and that's when I started reading papers. And a lot of reps don't do that, but I highly encourage it because you can stay ahead of the curve.
Right. So you were trying to stay up to date with industry news, releases, publications, so that you could be at the forefront of the industry and therefore provide solutions to what was coming and have up to date conversations with potential clients.
Yeah, I mean, I was having conversations about stem cell therapy products in the early 2000s. I mean, people
Yeah.
weren't doing that. Now we're just we're on the very cusp of starting to adopt it. But there have been surgeons that have been using bone marrow aspirate and PRP um, and effectively for over 20 years, 30 years. Alan Mishra is a great example of bringing PRP. He's the godfather of PRP. I mean, he's been preaching it for a long time, but it's all about technique. If you don't take enough and you don't take enough of the blood, if you don't spin it properly, if you don't select the right patients, then it's not going to be effective. So it's really
Mm.
dialing in the art form that makes these patients have viable outcomes and the technique.
Yeah, interesting. And so Illuminate is the company that you founded. Um, so give us an introduction to Illuminate and the product that you're bringing to market.
So we are pioneering a new era of surgical implants called therapeutic hardware. It's a first of its kind technology, and the goal is to reduce global reoperation rates. And this is a platform technology that we could apply to any orthopedic spine or dental or veterinary implant. But we specifically chose spine because that's where we felt we could do the greatest global good. And that is honestly what gave me the idea to invent this. So, unlike traditional implants that only provide mechanical fixation, and they're usually smooth. We have proprietary porous designs that are meant to deliver therapeutic functionality to hardware. So we're allowing surgeons to be able to diagnose, to treat, and accelerate healing through the devices itself.
So you've come from this rich commercial background. You've had this idea. I feel like great commercial people are always ideas people, right? We sit there and we're like, oh, I had a great idea, and then with that one, just fades, and the next one comes along. How do you go from idea to actual product, and what does that look like?
So I think a lot of growth and grit. I
Yeah.
think, for me, it might be very unique. I sketched the idea in the OR after seeing failures. Russell Walter, my dear friend, was teasing me. He was like, "Why are you picking up spine? The screws back out and the rods break." And I saw that happen in the OR, but then I saw it happen to my family members.
Mm.
When it happens to people you love and you're able to see the ramifications of not only the patient, but also the caregivers, it provided an insight in we've got to do better. And because I had represented multiple products throughout the body, hundreds of products throughout the body, if not thousands, I saw what worked and what didn't work in different areas. And I understood biologics pretty well. And I sketched out an idea in the OR in 2009, took 10 years to collect data on it. But during that 10 years, I went through some personal struggles, particularly at the end. And I was going through a divorce, got hit by a drunk driver going 77 miles an hour, had a traumatic brain injury, told my employer that I needed brain surgery. They let me go 2 weeks later, even though I was number one or number two in the world. And I just decided I was tired of being disposable. And I had been sitting on this idea that many surgeons had said was legitimate, and it could be the next step. Uh, I just decided, why not? I adopted the mindset of if I'm on my deathbed, what am I going to regret most?
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I invested in the company. I invested in, and I looked at it from a chess map, from a chess scenario. Where was I weak? I was weak in, I didn't have an MD or a PhD or an engineering degree.
Right.
So I got an entrepreneurial degree, an executive MBA over at WashU, and to give myself some credibility and alliances. I also consulted with multiple different companies that allowed me to strategically think and take my blinders off from various perspectives.
Right.
Took a massive pay cut and just really and developed myself mentally, physically, and spiritually. It was the lowest of the low times,
Right.
but at least I had something to look forward to. And even if I failed, I was still developing myself. And
Mm.
that's the thing here. Um, what people don't understand is a majority of the people that are developing these implants or new technologies, they have something that happened that they wanted more. And they were all, I think all of us are in transition, and that's why we support each other so much. Even if we're competitive, we support each other because we know how hard it is and how many opportunities uh, we're missing with our family members and loved ones. And so when I'm mapping out a product or designing a product, I'm looking at it from this perspective of, first of all, can this get into a hospital system?
Mm.
That's so rare. There are so many products out there that are good in theory but can never get across the finish line. And the sad part of it is a majority of the executives don't have commercialization experience. They've
Right.
never worked in an OR other than a handful of times, just
Yeah.
viewing. They don't understand value analysis, which is ever evolving. They don't understand these exclusivity agreements. They have it from a bird's eye view, but unless you're in it, you don't understand the nuances, and the nuances will make or break a company.
That makes complete sense. The amount of early stage, pre-seed, seed, Series A companies who are founded by technologists by trade, who maybe have engineering backgrounds, maybe have medical backgrounds, and have zero understanding of commercialization. Will it ever make money? But they fall in love with the product because they think it has this profound impact on people, and maybe it does have a profound impact, but ultimately if the cost of manufacturing and the price point of it completely prices them out of the market. There's so many great products that just never make it. So you having that deep commercial background, and not just from a single product, because you're a distributor and able to see different products in different companies in your bag, as you say, is an incredibly valuable perspective as you go through. Now that product is where it is, the next stage is going to set you up really well. Did you find did you find the MBA helped for what you want to do? Because for me, the MBAs divide opinion. Some people absolutely love them, and some people say the network was great. And you mentioned credibility. Um, how did you find the MBA, and how has it been useful for what you want to do?
I think going to WashU was the greatest thing I could have ever done.
Oh wow.
But I knew I was intentional with what I was going in there for. So every case study, almost every case study, I designed it around my company, what I could learn from it. I still use the pro forma that I built in the program. I paid $147,000 for that program, and I had a professor invest 200,000 in my company.
Oh
You
wow.
know, it not only paid for itself, but I met some of the greatest people with limitless mindsets. We actually created an adventure club together, the Medallion Adventure Club with Professor Ron King and some extraordinary people. We just met last week, a weekend. It's you get what you put into it. Just with all things in life, you get what you put into it. And if you're and now keep in mind this is one of the top entrepreneurial programs in the world.
Right.
So I think Poets and Quants ranked it one number one a few times, and we're top 15 in the world for entrepreneurialism. So depending on the ranking system, but I specifically could not have chosen a greater institution to be part of.
Yeah. Well, glowing reference. So you've got this early on in your career, you have this passion for learning and the technical side of what you're going to be involved in and being at the forefront of the industry, which ultimately fueled your success as a distributor. You've then got this incredible wealth of commercial understanding. It feels like all these things have added up to where you are and what you're doing now. But underneath it all, do you feel this idea would have still came to life if you never had to overcome or go through the dark days, as you said, the low points where you were, questioning everything? And, where do you think this idea would be if life had just been glorious and you'd been making good money as a really successful distributor?
I don't know, honestly. I think I had to get to the point. That's why I think there's a lot of divine intervention in here,
Yeah.
because there's a saying that if you can only take something away to allow yourself to be open to something else, right? And I had everything taken away. So,
Right.
I mean, I literally had my mind, body, and spirit taken away from me. At one point, I couldn't even move my mouth. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't stand up because the wind that would touch my face just by standing up or brushing my teeth would send 40 electric shocks per minute through my face at a 10 to 10 pain scale. Trigeminal neuralgia is the most painful condition known to man. And I tell you what, it was brutal. But no, I can probably honestly say that I would have held on to the belief system that I was raised, that I had experienced. Because when I sketched this out, I tried to patent it. I went to patent it, and I didn't have a lot of support system. People told me that I needed to be appreciative. I have a good job. Why do you want more?
Yeah.
You're doing okay. And I was listening to people.
Hmm.
And through those series of events that happened, I stopped listening to others and started listening to myself, and decided, had I become incapacitated in that car wreck, what would have been my greatest regret? And it would have been not betting on myself. And so I would never take away any of those things because they made me grow. Now they were terrible. Don't get me wrong. I wish they didn't happen, but I'm
Yeah.
glad that they happened in the same regard.
Are you still driven by the same things as you were 6 years ago when you decided to, go all in? Are you still driven by the same things, or do you find your purpose changes and grows as you progress? And what sort of gets you out of bed now?
So, yes, it's the same purpose. And that purpose is, this is so much bigger than me.
Yeah.
I'm just the messenger, right? My purpose is to use my brain, use my team's brain and resources, and really leave the world better than we found it based off of the information that we have available to ourselves. And I think we're going to do a really good job at reducing reoperation rates without disrupting the operational flow, and without pricing too high, and really truly trying to benefit the patient and the surgeon.
So that same purpose has actually had an impact on how you already plan to commercialize and approach the market with the product.
Absolutely.
That's an interesting perspective for potential investors, surely. Do potential investors look at that, and are they able to grasp the purpose like you. I mean, they'll never get it like you get it, right? Maybe they do. I don't want to talk, maybe there is some out there that absolutely get it and they're in it for the same reasons. But I think I'd be fair to assume that the money men would want to go, how big can we take this? Right? Does that come up? Is that a conversation that's had when you're raising capital?
Well, that's the greatest part of it is if you look at, there are various analyses that, especially in business school, that you learn. There's the SWOT analysis and pricing matrices and matrices and all this stuff. And when you look at from a commercialization standpoint, you can look at it on a scale. If you're going to price really high, it's going to be a boutique sale. And typically you do that when you can't deliver. It's extraordinarily beneficial, right? I mean, think about insulin. It's extraordinarily valuable, right?
Right.
And so when they increased the price, they knew that they could do it. Was it the
Yeah.
right thing to do? No. It maybe, I mean, it is what it is. If you're talking about greater global good, no, it was the wrong thing to do. However, they got money from it. But if you look at this product, because it can be manufactured so readily, because it's additively manufactured, and because we do not have market share, and this is the key point that so many companies miss. You go to market without market share and you put a premium price, and then you're spending 6 to 12 months, sometimes 2 years in the value analysis process without ever getting through because you have a retina surgeon that's proving an orthopedic product that's coming in at 6 a.m. for pro bono to analyze the value analysis process, right? That's the fact. That's what is happening today. And so if you price your product at a premium, you better make sure that you can get through the value analysis process and get used. Because if not, the pricing will immediately get it out of conversation with value analysis. And surgeons will start complaining about it on LinkedIn and so on and so forth. What we did was we looked at, do we have, so we'll have a high list price, right? So if an acquirer wants to acquire us, they can adopt that pricing and it will be set into the hospitals. But for the hospitals that want to support us early on, where we have no market share, that's when you provide the opportunity to say, hey, we'll match your pricing or maybe a little bit above your pricing, but we'll keep this reasonable within reason. And because we want to partner here. And if you'll give us the data to help with our registry creation and track and show that these patients are actually, we are reducing the revision rate with these implants, it's a win-win partnership. And if you price at a reasonable price point that's commensurate with the market, then you have the opportunity for adoption. Now, if the technology proves that it's extraordinarily benefit, every company slowly increases pricing. But our goal here is to actually demonstrate that we're reducing the revision rate and collect data. So anybody that's willing to partner with us on that, I am more than happy to shake their hand and create a really nice, beneficial relationship fiscally and also rewarding to the hospital and the patient. Because again, if we can reduce the revision rate, we're reducing the readmission rates in the hospitals as well.
That makes complete sense. So being able to demonstrate it and then look back on the data as proof of concept and then use that to grow is as beneficial to you as any profit that you could possibly make in the early years. So and it also nicely ties in with back to your purpose of being focused on bringing a product and making it accessible to people that need it and patients that need it, rather than a high price point because it's a better product than what's already out there in the market.
Well, and that's the thing, if you price it the same, and we've seen this with so many products through the years, if you price it the same and you are better in every single category, that's when you get mass adoption. Would I rather have $300 million in revenue if I can honestly, truly provide a opportunity where we're showing up for every case. There's no back order issues. Heck yeah, I'll take that because we know we're better for the patient. We know that we're it's a gold standard. What we're doing is gold standard information that's readily available in the market. Every surgeon and sales representative know that trabecular patterns, so bone patterns in titanium, combined with autograft mixed with bone marrow cells, create the highest level of opportunity for fusion. That's all we're doing. We're taking what is done in the inner body and we're providing it in one implant with a very um, streamlined approach. It's a 3-in-1 approach.
Makes sense. So where's the company now? Where are you in the Illuminate journey?
So we are on the tail end of our FDA clearance, knock on wood. We have been awarded an ARCH grant in St. Louis, and we are ready to start placing orders for commercialization with a strong market entry and at WashU, Duke, UCSF, Cox Health, University of Missouri, and some key teaching institutions, as well as over in India. The North American Spine Society, I don't know why, but I'm grateful they appointed me to be part of a committee for the NAS Innovation Network Summit. And the goal there is to teach surgeons and reps and how to bring product to market, how to look at it from that framework and that I was mentioning earlier, but also connecting them with consultants or companies that actually have throughput through the process. And that's what's unique here is going in, I only knew who I had heard were good, and that's typically everybody. When you go to hire somebody, you don't know. You just can rely on your first intuition, and you can rely on a resume, and then maybe a few people know them, but you really don't know if they can get the job done. And so many times they can't. I would actually argue that close to 80% cannot get through what needs to be performed in a startup. And I think that that is really one of the key initiatives that I have for the NASA Innovation Network Summit is to not let what happened to me happen to others.
So you're going to be providing advice for people to, and even surgeons, to bring products to life, but then also the business side of it and the reality of, yes, you've got this great idea, this product, we can get it through to like an MVP. Then there's a business side that we need to go to get from MVP to years later approval and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Yep. There are so many considerations. There are hundreds of considerations to make before you even start. And that's what people don't really realize a lot of time. And you waste so much time and energy, and then you partner with the wrong people, and you don't have a framework of how to divide equity. And then it creates the loudest voice wins situation. Um, I think I really want to make sure that people understand if they're going to do this, it's the hardest thing you're ever going to do. But if you dial in and you have a few key pearls, it can save you so much time and frustration. And I'm grateful that I've received some of the pearls through the years. And you typically only get them through founders and inventors, because um, it's a unique lens, right? And how many founders and inventors do we know?
Yeah, that's a really, because I've the founder network in itself can be difficult to penetrate because they're so head down, dealing with whatever they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, and yet those same founders are on a daily basis struggling to go, where's the answer to this? I have no one to talk to. I wouldn't even know where to look for advice on this. It's such a challenge. Startup life, you've touched on a few things there. What's been those sort of, not necessarily challenges, but the lessons learned of throwing yourself as an inventor this time, right? Because you had obviously your previous distribution company, but as an inventor starting up, and what's been some of the hurdles you've had to come across that you were just like, wow, I was not expecting that.
Yeah, it's always people related.
Oh wow, here we go.
Always. People are the best and the worst thing aspect of the business, right? The the most powerfully impactful portion of doing this is the people. It's the other founders, it's the surgeons that believe in what we're doing. It's people like you that want to showcase people that have extraordinary innovation and a commitment to do better for people, right? We support each other. Founders support each other so well. We really, really do. And I can call a competitive company and say, hey, do you know how I have this situation? And we'll connect each other with somebody that solved the problem for us. Um, and it's really a truly extraordinary experience. It's what every person wants in their career, right? We all want to have this glue that holds us together, this unseen glue. The worst part is greed. Um, and that's where Mike Moyer wrote a book called Slicing the Pie. It's phenomenal. And I highly recommend it to every single person starting a company and the team. It really classifies every single person on the team as a grunt. We are there to work. We are not there. We can strategize only so much, but until we get something across the finish line and we do work together, actual closed work, then we're nothing. We're nothing. And so what I've seen so many times is executives want to talk and strategize and blah, 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 blah. But at the same point, nobody does the work. Nobody's willing to put together an Excel file or put together modifications of the deck. They're willing to make corrections like a teacher does, but they're not willing to do it from
Right.
start to finish. And but yet then they're like, well, I should get equity. No, you don't get equity until you actually do the work, until you complete. And so aligning your company with metrics, that was a big key thing. And anybody that starts with me, I've learned that there are key metrics that will keep them out of trouble and the company out of trouble. As long as we have these key metrics established with bonuses, whether they want it shares or monetary, we let them decide. But it's so important in and I align those metrics with respect to what are some things that will get us into trouble, like when the FDA audits us, or when we're on talking acquisition. What are those things that are going to cause problems typically with other companies, or with the transaction, right? And so if you align it the jobs and the metrics according to what gets a company in trouble typically, then you protect the company, but you also show the people that you're bringing on what's important to you, and it gives them insights that they need to do it right the first time.
Is it difficult to come up with metrics in an early stage, early stage company, when, because obviously metrics are like, you and I both know, especially when you have a live product and you're selling, metrics are easy because it's pretty simple to, in that late stage commercialized product. In an early stage company, are metrics formed around milestones that you want to achieve and being able to foresee problems ahead? And also, follow-up question on that, because you just mentioned it, how are you coming up with these metrics? Are you utilizing people's advice and people who have been there and done that to go get ahead of this stuff now?
Yeah, so for example, Metrics are easy if you really think about the grand picture. So for engineering, align it with FDA clearance. That's a big milestone that is impactful to the company, and you should be more than willing to give equity for meeting that milestone
Right.
to the one person that can get you there, and that's your engineer, right?
Yeah.
For quality for acquisition or for the FDA audits, those are big metrics. So the first audit, that's a big milestone. Make sure that your quality manager understands that that's a milestone that can be very challenging as the first audit. So if it goes well, then they get equity. And then for acquisition purposes, that quality management will make or break you.
Yeah.
And these are pearls that I've picked up through the years, through various sources. Tiger Buford's a great source on this. Uh, Quality management can kill a deal.
Mm.
So if you align your metrics and your miles according to those milestones, and you compensate with shares of the company, it's a win-win. Or with you can do financial. Some people like money. But most people, if they're entrepreneurial spirited,
Yeah.
or they're enough of a risk taker, a lot of times they'll want equity in the company. They'll want the shares.
Do you find with that entrepreneurial spirit, you're someone who's invented a product with a much deeper purpose, and you mentioned that this is something that's bigger than you, and that drives you every day. When you hire people into your purpose, there can be this disconnect between how much it means to you versus how much it means to them. Has that been something you've come across, or and if so, how have you sort of dealt with that to bring people in or out of that?
I mean, honestly, and this is why I firmly believe that everybody should have equity in the company.
Yeah.
I If everybody has ownership, then they look at it through a different lens. And it's all about perspective, right? If I can't raise money for the company, then they fail too. So they want to support me. If Matt and Lisa and I and Todd can't get it through regulatory, then we all fail. Like, we all have to have ownership in it. That's the most important part. And it's so short-sighted to me for any company to hold on uh, to equity and just pay in bonuses, because there's an energy that is created that cannot be quantified. It cannot be calculated, right? And an ownership to it as well. And so if you push people to only be financially responsible in a very tumultuous environment. I mean, we don't have admin. We don't have people that
Yeah.
we do everything, and and we're responsible for each other. So if you don't
Mm.
create that environment, you don't set the stage for everybody having ownership, then you reduce the opportunity for energy and throughput.
Yeah. Awesome. Hello, Kat. What's Kitty's name?
That's Leo.
That's Leo. I've got Lizzie next to me, who's named after Queen Elizabeth, by the way. And I worry because she's a bit loco. So, if she goes crazy, then could happen any second. I do worry when she's in the room with me.
Well,
Um,
Leo is adopted. He's toilet trained. He and his sister were adopted, and they're toilet trained. So, and he
oh,
knows he's
good.
good looking, so he
Oh,
likes
really?
to have fun. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Alice. Raising capital. Um, how have you found? Is this the first time in your career you've been the face of a company raising capital and being in those conversations?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I
Okay.
was on the back end, so did a year stint with a private equity firm. So I had some perspective, right, of what to do and what not to do. But until you're doing it, this is the hardest. Everybody will tell you, anybody that has ever raised capital and didn't just get lucky, like to where they just had somebody that was willing to do it right out the gate. Anybody that has ever done this, it is the hardest job ever. And I guarantee you, a majority of the companies that are looking to acquire us are just trying to see if I can do it. Because if not, then the price of the company goes down, right? So, I know who's looking at us on LinkedIn,
Right, right.
I know exactly who's looking at us.
So how does it start raising capital? Where do you go? I can't even imagine. What's that initial thought, and what do you do to go, right? I need to raise capital. I'm at that stage. What happens? What is that process?
So typically, it's friends and family.
Yep.
However, I did it opposite because I still wanted to. I knew that the big companies had been trying to do what we were doing for a long time. And so I didn't want to sit across from Thanksgiving dinner having taken away the retirement for family members, right? So I connected with people that were high net worth individuals or manufacturers that understood the nuances of the technology and how hard it would be to achieve. And we got our initial investment overseas, over in India, and which is the U.S. is very challenging right now, particularly in orthopedics and spine, because companies have underperformed.
Right.
And the reason why they've underperformed is they keep coming out with commoditized product that the market doesn't really care about. And so we're at a very unique pivot in with regards to raising capital. So venture capitalists have declined, venture capital has declined in orthopedics and spine significantly for
Right.
that reason, right? So, and then a lot of them are also investing, about 50% is going towards AI
Right.
now. And then, so there's a very small available capital for orthopedic spine company, and everybody's fighting after it, over it. What makes this great though is technology that truly is unique is the only one that can survive, because everybody that's in for the wrong reasons gets out because it's so hard. So this is where Warren Buffett's theory of get in while everybody's getting out. It's the perfect time to invest in orthopedics and spine. VCs are not really investing right now. They're holding on to funds, or they're raising the capital, but the money isn't coming in. I know somebody that's raised 200 million and they only pulled in 76 of it because the interest rates in the banks are so high for savings. So that's a sure thing. Why would you invest it in such a high risk?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the interest rates have now been high for about 2 years, right? So it's really tough to raise capital. It's been, the toughest it's been for a long time. When did you start raising capital, and have you noticed the difference over the last sort of, from when you were first raising to more recently? Does it feel like it's getting better, worse, and how's that sort of been over the years?
So what I've seen, I've been raising for about 3 years,
Right,
but slow trickles just to get us through, not taking too much money.
right,
And that was one piece of advice that I received early on: raise what you need. And at the time, because the initial seed money is very expensive.
right.
So those are the people that are going to get the highest returns and the most amount of equity in your company, right?
Yeah,
So don't raise an extraordinary amount in the seed round, because you can lose 75% of your company very quickly that way.
right,
And so raise what you need. The market is worse by far right now. However, because we're hitting milestones and we're in FDA submission, the opportunity is better because people are less risk adverse. And so us having met the FDA milestone is very valuable to people. And then you'll see this network of these startups where we really support each other. We really support each other because we know how hard it is, but also because we know that their technology is viable. And so very rarely will you ever hear me talk about any technology not being valuable, because the ones that are surviving are really good traditionally.
And are you seeing more optimism for how this year plays out, and people saying in them rooms, now's not the time, but if this was 6-12 months down the line, there's optimism for the future of
No.
right.
No. Not with what's going on in government. No.
Yeah.
This is you almost have to say it's going to work itself out somehow.
Yeah.
We are lucky because we have a diversification strategy for manufacturing inside and outside of the US. We have a diversification strategy for sales inside and outside of the US, where
Right.
typically startups are encouraged by former executives to only commercialize in the US because the margins are so much higher here in the
Yeah.
US. However, if you think from that mindset, and you also look at the exclusivity agreement issues, most companies do not have a way to get into the hospitals like we do. We have the revision path. This is a product that can be a primary surgery application, but it really can also be for revisions. And that's the avenue that we're going, because we think that we can reduce the revision rate significantly for these patients that have healing that are compromised for a variety of reasons. So yeah, the market is going to be tough. And it will be for the foreseeable future. However, this is the perfect time to get in. If you look at the condos that were on the beach selling for 300,000 that are now selling for 10 million, that's when everybody says, I wish I would have invested.
Yeah, 100%. Have you enjoyed raising capital as something new? Has it been is it enjoyable? I'm sure you've learned a lot, but have you enjoyed it?
I love the people. I love taking off my blinders. I think it's a painful process, but sometimes the most painful processes are the most valuable. So it gives me a new appreciation for what it takes to build a company. It
Yeah.
gives me more grit and more resilience, and it dials me in on what's important from different perspectives. So I'm grateful for this opportunity. And I don't say that lightly, because it is hard.
And so what next? What happens from here? When we're going to see a load of Illuminate news in 2025? What does that look like?
I mean, you will see FDA clearance. Knock on wood. I'm hoping that it's within the next 30 days to 2 months. There's been some disruption, as we know, within the regulatory process. But knock on wood, things are going our way. We're at the last 10 yards, right? We're those last 3 minutes are on the clock, and so we just got to keep our heads down, make some really good sound decisions, make sure that we're working as a team. And then we start our 15 million raise after clearance. And so
Wow.
we're actively bringing in investors now, lining them up. We have a good opportunity, a good Rolodex of people that are starting to commit. So that's fun. We have some big checks potentially that we're working on through due diligence. So we're going to do this, and we're going to do it really well.
That's awesome. I guess any last piece of advice for founders or potential founders, potential inventors, for how they could approach this and follow in your footsteps?
Everybody's welcome to go to the NAS Innovation Network Summit in June 19th through the 21st in Chicago. I think that is going to be the most valuable way to look at it, because it's not just coming from me. It's coming from the biggest surgeons in the world that have invented product. It's coming from CEOs. It's coming from other founders. It's coming from other consultants to look at it from how do you redefine your contract? What verbiage do you need in your contract to make sure that you own your product?
Right.
What should you look for when designing a product to eventually commercialize? Does it have a CPT code? That's a big one. So many companies fail if you don't have a reimbursement pathway. There's so many angles to look at. And if you don't do that initially before you even begin, you are way behind.
Wow. Great advice. Thank you so much, Alyssa. This was awesome. This was everything and more that I hoped it would be. I think we got a fantastic insight into you and your background and what's driving you, but also the realities of this journey you're on. As I said earlier on, we're going to do a part 2 when that is not important, but it will be so awesome in the future to look back and go, this is where you were and this is what's happened since. And I think I speak for everyone that everyone is betting on you, and I think I'm all in for you. So I'm sure you're going to go on and smash it. It's just awesome to hear your insight into it and get more and more detail.
I think that's what's missing is people that are willing to be brutally honest.
Yeah.
And it's so refreshing whenever I do hear somebody that's willing to be brutally honest with eloquence and humility. Those are the people that I listen to. And so I hope that I can provide that lens in some capacity, because you don't have any idea what you're getting into until you actually do it, but you can prepare yourself.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you so much. Look forward to catching up again and seeing all your success.
Thanks, David. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks for listening to the show. I hope it was insightful and inspiring. This podcast is brought to you by Alyssa Consulting. We are a commercially focused recruitment agency focused on medtech and life sciences. If we can help you in your job search, or if you're hiring commercial talent, please reach out to me on LinkedIn, David Philby, or at our website, alyvraconsulting.com. Thanks again.